On Tuesday, well, actually Monday, but most of the people in the U.S. were on vacation. Monday evening into Tuesday's trading, um, Apple basically announced that they were affected by the coronavirus, that they were seeing problems both in their supply chain and with demand, more or less stemming from all the disruptions that are occurring in China. Um, Markets reacted somewhat negatively. We actually saw most of the broader indices sell off a bit on Tuesday, although the Nasdaq worked its way higher because all the other FANG names were up. Um, but basically, we saw Apple doing some negative damage to a lot of the sectors of the stock market. I'm actually somewhat amazed at how resilient the market was in the face of a story like that. Now, here's the thing about the coronavirus. We don't know how long this is going to persist. And certainly the market is taking it from the point of view of this is a temporary crisis. Um, we may affect demand for a quarter or so, but ultimately things will snap back to normal in a relatively short period of time, and things will proceed as they had been, and we can sort of take a little bit of a 1 quarter haircut as long as the bigger picture remains in place. So that really becomes both the opportunity and the risk in a scenario like this. Um, I think we'll start to hear more about the virus's impacts on a wide range of companies. Remember also that when first quarter earnings come around, which really won't be in earnest until mid-April, mid to late April, and then into May, so we have some time here. I think what will happen is any companies that are missing their numbers will try to blame it on coronavirus. We've seen it all the time. If there's bad weather, they blame it on bad weather. It's companies, I think, like having a ready excuse to blame any shortfalls on, or to be able to say, "See, look, we did great despite any negative effects of the virus." So you're going to hear that a lot, I think, in the coming months, but not necessarily in the immediate term. You do start to have to wonder, though, whose businesses are really going to be impacted, let's say beyond a temporary measure. Are there retailers who depend a lot on Chinese tourists coming to the U.S., for example, and that money is just not coming? Can that demand be replaced? What inventory will they be left with as a result of this? Is there going to be real demand for cruises in the immediate future? The cruise industry cannot have had sort of a worse run of news, particularly from the ship that was stranded in Yokohama or quarantined in Yokohama, Japan. And I think a lot of people, I've had someone comment to me today, "I'm not getting on a cruise. It's a floating petri dish." That is someone else's view, not necessarily mine. But if that idea persists, that's the sort of thing that can really impact the cruise industry for more than just the immediate term, probably for coming quarters, because people don't normally book a cruise and then take it next week. They book a cruise that they're going to take sometime in advance. So these are the type of things you start to worry about. Commodities have fallen to a certain extent. Many of them have fallen to a large extent, although we've seen oil stabilize sort of around the $50 level after flirting with a shot below 50. So that's another way of saying that maybe demand is impacted, but only temporarily. The worry becomes twofold. A, does the virus persist longer than people think? Are there shutdowns, supply chain disruptions, demand disruptions that will last more than a few weeks or a couple of months? If that's the case, I think the market is a little too sanguine. The second is, we saw the Chinese put in a lot of money ahead of the Chinese New Year, which is normal, but they put in an inordinate amount of money because of the disruptions involving the virus. They've started to withdraw a lot of that liquidity. And one has to wonder that if the economy in China is not fully back on its feet and the People's Bank of China starts to withdraw a lot of the excess liquidity that they put in, what are the effects that stem out of that one? All this remains to be seen. These are the things you have to be watching for. It's too early to draw conclusions. Right now, the market's conclusion tends to be that any impacts will be temporary and transitory. If that's not, though, that becomes potentially problematic.